Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I am so glad to have you here with me again this week. Sorry I'm a little late. I had to reinstall the software the other day and forgot to set the stream up. So I'm so glad you could be here. And today we're going to continue our exploration of working with analogous colors. We started this 2 weeks ago, and so far we've worked through our yellow, orange, and orange. Last week we did orange, and red. So today we're going to be doing red violet, and violet. I already have the dyes mixed up, but before we get to that, I want to talk about, just give you a little overview of color schemes and analogous colors. So let me switch over to that, and hopefully you can see the file I have on screen. But a color scheme is just basically a collection of planned colors that work well together. So think of this as your color recipe. It helps you with your choices and helps your colors in your project feel a little more cohesive. And this applies whether you're dyeing fabric or working with threads for stitching or screen printing, but working with a color scheme will help you to make a more cohesive project. Another thing, everyone uses color schemes. So all types of artists and designers, from painters to interior decorators, landscapers, they all work with color schemes, and they will help you set the mood for your work. And again, they create harmony or even contrast, and they can be used to draw your eye to certain focal points. And finally, they do tell a visual story. So that's basically what a color scheme is. Now let's take a look at some of the different types of color schemes. So there are a number of different types, and I don't have them all here, but these are some of the more common ones. And the first one is monochromatic, and that's where you use one color and have a different varieties of lightness and darkness and values in that color. So this can be very unifying and it has a very calming effect. So think of light blue, medium blue, and navy blue. All blues, but they're different variations of that blue color. Now, analogous colors, what we're working with now, these are colors that are right next to each other on a color wheel, and you usually can find them in nature a lot. A lot of flowers will have very analogous colors. And think of yellow, green, and green. That's another analogous color scheme. Complementary colors are two colors that are directly opposite of each other on the color wheel. And these colors provide a lot of high contrast and they're very dramatic. I find that people who really like colors, they love the complementary color scheme because it is so dramatic and it's very in your face. So think of red and green, your traditional Christmas colors. They're opposite of each other on the color wheel. Also blue and orange and yellow and violet. Very dramatic, high contrast colors. Now split complementary is like a cousin to the complementary color scheme. And instead of going directly opposite the color, so let's say if you're starting with red, instead of choosing green, you want to choose the colors on each side of green. So you want to have blue green and yellow green. So you would have red, blue green, and yellow green. So this that's a split complementary color scheme, and it's still very dramatic, but not as dramatic as the complementary scheme. It's a little toned down a bit. Now, when you're working with complementary and split complementary, it's a good idea to have one of those colors toned down just a little bit to let the other colors take center stage. That makes it a little bit more appealing and not just so boom right there in your face. So another split complementary, say that fast 3 times, screen scheme is blue with yellow orange or red orange. The last one I want to talk about is triadic, and these are three colors that are spaced evenly around the color wheel. And I like to call these the Crayola colors because red, yellow, and blue are typically the colors that most kids gravitate to when they first start working with crayons. And that's a triadic color scheme. And it consists of your three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. But there are others. So now let's take a look at some typical analogous color schemes. Um, there are a number of them, and with analogous color schemes, you can work with three colors or up to five colors. So the three colors, they are basic yellow, yellow, green, and green, blue, green, blue, blue, violet, violet, red, and red, which we're going to be doing today, and red, orange, orange, and yellow, orange. So, but there are more. Those are just a few of them. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the overhead camera, and I'm going to show you how to do the folds. So today, doing this series with analogous color schemes, we are working with a flag fold. So let me switch over. There we go. And I've already pre-folded my fabric, but I'm going to unfold it and show you exactly how to do it. So this is cotton fabric that I'm working on, cotton muslin, and it's a 15 by 15 inch piece. You can work with any size. And the basic folds are all the same no matter whether we're doing the flag fold, the square fold, or the hexagonal fold. The basic is still, we start out the same way. So we take our piece of fabric and we fold it in half in one direction. Usually the long way, but since this is a square piece of fabric, it really doesn't matter. So now it's folded in half, and now I'm going to take this raw edge or this top edge and fold it back to the center. Flip it over. Again, take the top edge and fold it back to the center. So that's the basics. We always start that way. I'll do that again for you. I'm going to fold it in half. And I press my folds in. You don't have to do that, but I like things to be very crisp. I'll take this top edge, fold it back toward the center. Flip it over. Take the top edge, fold it back to the center. So that's how we start. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this lower left corner and fold it until it meets the top edge. So I'll just take and fold that up, and that forms the basis of our triangle. So this is a 90-degree triangle, and by folding that top edge up, or that left bottom edge up to the top, it forms the base of our triangle. Now what I do next is turn it over. I'm going to take the tail of the fabric and just start folding it back and forth so that we could create new triangles that stack on this triangle. So I'll fold it back, and I want to fold it so that this edge and this edge is even with the triangle on the bottom, our first triangle. Now fold it this way, and this is going to be a diagonal fold. This edge and this edge is even with the triangles below it. So we're just folding triangles in the same shape, and they're stacking on top of the triangles already folded. This way, this edge and this edge is even with the triangles below it. Another diagonal fold. This edge is even. Another fold. This edge is even. And one last fold. And sometimes you will have some left over. You can cut it off. I just usually leave it, and we'll leave it at that. Now at this point, I need to put this in what's called soda ash. And soda ash is the fixative. I have that off to the side. Without the soda ash, the dye does not bond permanently to the fabric. So you definitely need soda ash. I'm going to stick that in the water or in the soda ash. Have to grab a drink of water. I don't need this. I'll put it off to the side. My other two pieces of fabric are already soda ashed. So I'll put one here. Sorry, I muted things for a minute. I had to cough. So what I'm going to do is be working with the red, violet, and violet. And I'm going to tone down the violet color just a little bit. And I'll be using neutral gray, just like we did in the other two sessions. I'm going to first clamp this fabric with the shape to provide some resist so that certain areas won't receive color. And I've just got a little square of wood here that I'm going to place in the middle. And I use these spring clamps to hold it in place. Next step is I'll put my gloves on before I forget. Otherwise, I'll be running around with red violet, and red hands all week. So I think I need to move this one up so that I can get to that tip down there. I think I'm going to put red and red violet over here and put violet down on this end. So the red is in a squeeze bottle, so I don't need to use my pipettes like I normally do. And I'm just going to start applying it. Turn it over and apply some from the other side. Okay, that should be enough of that. I'm going to apply my red violet to one of the other areas, to this area here, and I will need a pipette for it. So the colors, the dyes that I use are from Pro Chemical and Dye. And the red violet is called boysenberry. So it's a pre-mixed color. So I didn't have to mix this secondary color like you do with some of them. Now for the violet, I am going to mix in a little bit of neutral gray with it. So I'm just going to pour some of this in a cup. And these are condiment cups that I purchased from a restaurant supply house. And I'm just going to use a pipette to apply or to add a few drops of this gray. think I'm going to add a little more. I found from working with violet before, a violet that I mixed, that it took a lot of the neutral gray to tone it down. I think I'm going to still add a little bit more. Oh, that's quite a bit, but I do want it to be toned down quite a bit. So I'm going to add this to this other corner here. And the colors are going to bleed into each other. It's something you can't prevent from happening, so don't stress about it too much. I kind of think it's nice when they bleed into each other. You get some really interesting effects on the fabric. Okay, so that's our first one. And just a minute, I forgot to bring another tray over. So I'll set this aside on another tray, keep it out of the way. Clean my hands off and do the next piece of fabric. And I'm going to use one of these small triangles and put it in an odd way. I like to experiment and using the same pieces of resist shapes, but placing them in different positions. The patterns will be similar, but there will be some differences with them. Okay, again, I'm going to start with the red. And where do I want to put it? I'll put it here on this point. Okay, I'm going to do the red violet. And I definitely like to make sure I open up the folds to get some dye in them. And that's why I like using these pipettes, because I can put the pipette down in between the folds and make sure I get dye in between everything. Okay, so the next one is going to be our violet that we grayed down with neutral gray. Again, I'm sticking the pipette in between the folds. And I will set this one aside. Now I need to get the last piece out of the soda ash. Okay, so let's go ahead and clamp this one. So the soda ash is sodium carbonate, and you need that to make the dye permanent on the fabric. I usually make up a big container because it doesn't go bad, and just use that until I need to make up more. The proportions I use are generally one cup of soda ash to 1 gallon of water. Just trying to find a way to put this on here. I want to try to get 3 distinct areas, but oh, okay, maybe if I do it this way. Okay, this is our last one, and so I need to move that a little bit so I can get to that corner. Allergies are flaring up today. Okay, I'm going to put red here, since I already got a little red dot there. Okay. I'll put red violet on the opposite end. That red is looking a little orange. I hope I didn't grab my red orange by mistake. But we'll see. We'll see when it washes out. Okay. And down at this tip that's already had the other colors run into it, we're just going to put the violet. Like I said, I don't mind that these colors run into each other. They all are related to each other, so I just think it makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, just trying to get the caps on those before I spill them, because I am very good at spilling things. And that's the last one. So I'll bring the other two out. Take a look at these. So the next step is to allow these to cure, or what we call batch. And by that, we need to let it sit for at least 4 hours, but I like to let mine sit overnight. So I'll leave these overnight, and I can leave them here in the garage because it's warm enough now. During the winter, I had to move them to my laundry room, and that allows time for the dye and the fabric to become permanently bonded with the help of the soda ash. So I'll leave these overnight, and tomorrow morning I will have these washed out in time for the live stream session, and then I will show you the results, and we'll talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, or whatever else we need to talk about with that. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope this has been helpful for you. If you didn't get a chance to watch the live stream, definitely watch the replay, and do go back and watch the previous live streams on the analogous colors and on the first series we did, which was, what did we do? Okay, it's been more than a week. I can't remember what we did. So go back and watch the first series. Watch them all. Why not? Watch them all. Thanks again for being here. I hope to see you tomorrow.